Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Mainly Eminem podcast in association with ePro. We're back for the first time this year and back with my usual co-hosts Blake and Ross. Guys, good evening, how are we?
How are we? How are we doing? It's been a while. Long time no speak.
It has. A lot of it was getting a little bit quiet over the last couple of months. There's obviously a few appearances that he's made, some live shows, etc. But something that sort of came, out of the blue last week was a lot of his tracks got leaked. So there's only one way of doing this, and it's basically diving sort of straight into it. But for those that are maybe not fully aware, just last week there, up to around about 40 tracks were released, or not released, sorry, leaked. And we still don't know the full ins and outs of how it all came about. But I think that it started off, I think there's a massive Eminem channel on Discord, and I believe it sort of came from there and then slowly went over to YouTube, Reddit, and then of course X. So I've got a little bit of info on the stuff straight away. So where did the leaks come from? I've been led to believe that they were leaked by a group called CX, which was then sent to all Discord servers and then finally uploaded onto YouTube. A lot of people were asking if Kulo, who's in charge of the Section 80 forum, who was infamous for releasing a lot of stuff around about 2010, if he was involved. Sort of goes on to say it seems to be that there is a bit of a sort of beef between the leakers and Kulo that goes a bit deeper. So apparently he's saying that he hasn't leaked the stuff. A lot of people are saying that he was. So it's one of those ones. We don't totally understand the full situation, but as I says, he has previous in the past, so he's been getting sort of tarred with that brush. Apparently there was over 100 Eminem songs that was sort of released or leaked, but of course only 30 or 40 or so have officially been uploaded onto all these websites. So in terms of that, just sort of for starters, guys, obviously it's a bit of a touchy subject about leaks, etc. I think we can all agree that the sort of good news to come from it was that there was no new music that Eminem has recorded in the last couple of months for any up-and-coming album that could have leaked. A lot of the tracks that we will discuss in a few minutes, of course, are from a few years back. What's your views on it, Blake?
I'm glad in terms of the fact that nothing new has come out. Obviously, I know there was a spokesperson that's put a statement out, I believe, a couple of days ago now, saying that obviously, it's the same thing that came out the last time all this happened. Obviously, like, these are all experimental ideas. Not everything which is recorded in the studio is designed for public consumption. So I'm glad that nothing new's come out, because this definitely could have put a back burner on anything that was planned, or maybe even cancelled the idea as a whole. But I don't know, something seems little bit, because it's been very public for any Eminem fan for years to know that Eminem isn't really an online type of person. Obviously, I know he does have access to online, and he has taught himself, Twitter and Instagram, this and the other, but I just don't see Eminem being the type of person that would just openly leave all these things quite happily sitting there on a computer, on a hard drive that's linked to the internet. Because some of the, like, even the infinite leaks, well, people are saying the leaks, I heard them years ago, but we'll call them infinite leaks. For leaks to go that far back, to all the way to 1996, is it? 1995?
Yes.
I don't know. To me, I think it's definitely got to be someone, not in his circle, but someone who would have access to those type of things, i.e. someone who works either in Interscope or Shady itself. So, but obviously I don't want to start speculating, because then that's when you start getting into...
Yeah, well, just on that, Ross did have a sort of hunch a few days ago when we were talking about apparent leak from Interscope, if that was right.
Well, obviously, yeah, this is the thing, is it's all stories, etc. But supposedly, I was scrolling through that Eminem Discord. I don't know how true it is. Again, I don't want to be the source of any rumours or anything like that, but supposedly an actual copy of one of Eminem's hard drives was actually taken, and Interscope employees have been let go due to it. So, which sucks, because if it's his personal hard drive, he was paranoid about leaks beforehand in the past. What's this going to mean for, like, his rollout moving forward? Is it going to take even longer now because he's got to actually travel to Dre to play the music for him, etc.? But yeah, I, like I said, it is all speculation. From what I've heard, anyway, from what I understand, is this guy Kulo has been like sort of on the radar for leaking Eminem stuff for a while. Supposedly, one of the tracks off of Bad Meets Evil was sort of a reference to him. Is it Take From Me? That's the one.
Yep.
Yeah. That's supposedly a direct sort of message to Kulo and the leakers. So yeah, but in regards to what you said, I am glad nothing sort of recent leaked because yeah, it might throw off any plans. We still don't know if there's going to be like a side B or anything like that. Obviously, no one's holding out any immediate hope for it, but I'm glad that nothing leaked where it would kind of ruin that for us, a bit like what happened with side B and Music to Be Murdered By.
One thing I will say though is in regards to them, I don't think they should be too upset about the demos which have been.
No, I agree.
Obviously, we spoke about this literally before we started recording. In terms of the demos, all they actually are is the beat's not finished, or maybe there's a couple of lines which have been added in, maybe taken out,
or reference vocals, or
yeah. Do you know what I mean? So like the Is This Love original, literally the only differences is one's got Dr. Dre on, and the other one has got Eminem doing Dr. Dre's lines before he's done it. It's the same thing with My Darling. The same thing with the Killer demo that came out from Music to Be Murdered By. All that is literally just, it's not been completely finished, and it just sounds a little bit different. A couple of lines here and there. So, in terms of the demos from his side of things, I'd be fuming that it's even got out in the first place because at the end of the day, even though there is a finished project out there, like you don't want unfinished work anywhere in terms of all the leaks as a whole, but the demo side of it, I won't be too upset just because that's okay. Well, that's quite cool. I've heard how he's done the process for this song now, but the other stuff I would be upset about just because I feel like now he's going to have to make music which apologizes again, like he did a couple of years ago when that other song. Obviously, I'm not going to say the line that he said in these new set leaks, but the other song that leaked where he mentioned Rihanna, he had to apologize for that again.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't get me wrong, he will quite happily hold his hands up and say, yeah, I did say those things, and yeah, that music shouldn't have come out. However, you know, I was in a different thought process. I was in a different mindset. I was coming off drugs. I was on drugs. It's not excusable, but at least he'll quite happily die on his shield about it. It's just a shame that he's got to even address it at all.
That is true. So yeah, I mean, the fact that these have came out obviously unofficially, you know, we are an Eminem news podcast as well, so you know we are going to talk about this. I know a lot of fans, there's some fans that refuse to listen to the leaks. That's fair enough, that's up to them, but we are going to go through some of the tracks that have came out. I do know that Eminem occasionally listens to this show, so you know it's up to you if you want to continue listening to us. But
on that note, as kind of like a public service announcement from us three, if you did leak those songs, you fucking suck, and I hope you stand on a plug.
Yes, so to the leakers, shame on you, but yeah, we're going to go through them. So there was, a couple of days ago, we were informed that No Life Shaq was potentially reviewing some of the tracks, but now he's not. It's probably just due to the copyright infringement that, of course, he listens to the song on YouTube while it's going, so there's probably a lot of sort of copyright infringement and samples, of course, but we are able to talk about them whether we like it or not, freedom of speech, etc. So we're going to go the way that it was uploaded online. The opening sort of track from this album or compilation of leaks was a track called Marshall Powers. We are led to believe that was recorded start of 2018 and produced by Dr. Dre. I actually really like this song, guys. I don't know about yourselves. Just the way it starts, the production, obviously paying a bit of homage to Austin Powers as well. Of course, never made the cut for Kamikaze. I don't know if you know the reasons behind that, if it was maybe a sample issue or it just wasn't good enough to make the cut. But what was your view on the track?
It's unusual to say, like, obviously the first couple of listens, it's very different than the rest of the vibe from Kamikaze, because Kamikaze was very much fuck you, I'll say what I want to do, and you can't tell me when I'm done sort of album. Even though there were some good fun songs in there at the same time, but I don't know. It's a shame, really. It never got. It's a shame. This, in fairness, never came out on Music to Be Murdered By, just because this could have been one of those goofy tracks which could have been on the album. You know, with the ones that were on there. So it's a shame, really. This one never came out because it is quite fun and it is quite a different beat than maybe what we've heard before. It's quite fresh. But I think it's a smart idea it didn't go on Kamikaze, because I think it would have just completely been out of place in terms of the rest of it.
Yeah. I mean, that is the thing with a lot of these songs that leaked. They were just tests as well. They were just to sort of read the room with how he was probably going, what route he was going for Kamikaze. He was probably in the very early stages of recording like anything. Apparently, I don't know how true this is, but on Genius, this song partially leaked in October of last year. I don't know, Ross, if you'd heard about that before, but that was just a little bit of information on the Genius site.
This was one of the ones that I don't think we discussed it on the show, but when it leaked, we were all sort of being advised to watch out for like AI leaks and stuff, because a lot of it, people thought this one was fake. A lot of people on X anyway were like, "No, that's fake. That's definitely AI. You can tell it's AI." But yeah, this is actually one of those ones that's come out and said, "No, this is legit." And this is supposedly, I don't know how true it is as well, but this is according to someone on Reddit. It was in the Eminem Discord as well, but this is supposedly the full track that hasn't been released, hasn't leaked. It's supposedly the one that went too far, that Dre was on about.
Ah, right, okay.
So apparently this is the one that Dre was like, no, it's just too aggressive for Kamikaze. You can't put this on there. And that's why it never went any further than, obviously, the first and second verse that we get, which are short verses for Eminem anyway. But do you know what's funny as well? Is I find that this song, he's kind of going at Slim Shady again. And the most recent album that we got was obviously about him killing Slim Shady off. But this just happens to be him talking about how he wants to, strangle him with his do-rag for thinking that he was tough back then, etc. So it was just quite funny to see of all the leaks that we got. We got one that happened to be on theme with the album we got recently. Yeah.
So, because it does end. Yeah, if I'm right in saying it is 2 verses and then the song just ends, so it is quite a quick song. So I think maybe the people leaking it also have it, and they're like, you know what, I don't want to be the one that actually puts this verse out.
Yeah, maybe.
So, yeah, maybe they, despite doing a bad thing, they actually done something right from it. So yeah, that's a track called Marshall Powers. There is another track from the Relapse era. Now, a lot of fans, of course, back in the day were, really looking forward to a potential Relapse 2. That, of course, never happened and morphed into Recovery. But there was a song called Love Drunk that was produced by Dr. Dre, and apparently that was recorded around about March of 2009. It's one of those sort of accent songs, you would say. Of course, that was the whole vibe for Relapse. He was doing this sort of serial killer character. What did you guys make of this one?
This one was, honestly, I listened to this with my brother, saying, "Oh, this leak from the Relapse era." I couldn't get through the first verse, like the first time I listened to it, without laughing, because it's just such an outrageous way to start a song. He also has a few jabs at Amy Winehouse in these leaks, which is quite funny, which is quite on brand for the time.
But you know why that is?
Apparently, she wanted to work with him, didn't she?
Well, apparently he reached out to her for maybe a track on the Relapse album, and she basically said no. So he was kind of pissed.
Oh, fair. I didn't know. That would have been... See, could you imagine something like We Made You with vocals from Amy Winehouse? It would have been unbelievable. That would have been wicked, especially being that we're from the UK as well. So, big up. But yeah, this one is honestly probably one of my favourites of the leaks that have come out. A little bit like iffy on the chorus, but it's very Relapse, isn't it? So
yeah. Apparently on verse 2, he speaks on Kendra, who is a playmate who's also featured in Smack That as well. So wonder if that was someone he knew, maybe from back in the day, or just a character. Did Ellen DeGeneres also get it tight as well in this track, I think?
Oh yeah, Ellen got it quite a bit in the first verse. He's talking about Ellen's wife, isn't he? I forgot what her name is now, but he's talking about yeah, that's it. that
Porsche.
Ellen got there first, and he's then saying he's going to kidnap her because she hasn't met the right bloke yet. It's yeah, it's funny.
Do you know, I will say I've always been a very much like I've never been the biggest fan of Relapse, and always said like Relapse 2 isn't going to happen. But you listen to these Relapse leaks which have come out, and you think to what like actually came out on Refill, and you just think to yourself like, I understand with maybe what's said in the song why they weren't released. However, like this
It's better
one
than what we got, isn't
Sociopath.
it?
Yeah.
This one's Sociopath. I understand Keys to My Room. I definitely understand that one. And we'll get to that one. But fucking hell, like, mate, I quite like these songs.
So as I says, there's quite a few tracks. So we're not going to dive into all of them because we would be here all day. But we're going to scan through a few of them anyway. So the track, it's more of a freestyle. It's called I'm Twisted, and that was recorded around about 2017, 2018. Throwaway freestyle, which has had some lines that ended up becoming prominent on Fall, that came off of Kamikaze. So that was a track that leaked. So following that track, there is a track called Sociopath. That was recorded around about March of 2009. Produced by Dr. Dre. A few views, both of you are quite like this track. What's your views on this one?
Obviously, I quite liked hearing 50 Cent again. It was the same, don't think entirety, but it was the same verse that we got for Is This Love a couple of years ago, 3 years ago this year actually now, which is crazy to think that's that long ago. But this definitely feels like it could have been a contender for what, like Old Time's Sake. Off of Relapse. So yeah, I really enjoyed this track a lot.
Then the track after that we have I'm Sorry, which was apparently this was supposed to be the lead single to Recovery. Unfortunately, Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven, which is the main sample of this track, never got the go ahead on time, so it never ended up seeing the day of light. But Blake, what's your opinion on this track? Are you a fan?
I quite like it. And I do think, obviously, the sample in the background does accommodate that factor as well. But I don't know. A couple of the lines in the verse best. Like, obviously, I definitely think going with Not Afraid for the lead single was obviously a smarter decision in terms of commercial success and popularity in terms of views. But I don't know. I like the chorus. I think it flows very well. It's just it's a very much, if you've not heard it, the only way I can describe it is like a Marmite song. Like, people are either going to really like it or really hate it. And I think, like I've just mentioned, the combination of the chorus, the sample, and just the way he delivers it, I quite like the song. But I understand why maybe people wouldn't. But it's a shame, like because it definitely would have been on the album.
Would have been,
I think.
if that was in Recovery, then I mean it fits perfectly. Like, it would have been
huge.
It would have been a massive song. I don't know if he would have. Of course, it was wasn't initially released, but I wonder if it did get the sample cleared, if he might have had someone doing the chorus, because it maybe sounds like it's just a sort of reference chorus. I could be wrong, obviously, but it would have been interesting to see if someone was able to do the chorus for him. Which could have came off pretty good, but yeah, it's just one of those ones that never came out. Another track, Follow Me. Now this was, am I right in saying this is featuring Nate Dogg?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So this would have been around about the time he was doing Curtain Call, and probably the re-up, maybe just after Encore as well. So this is a producer that I've actually wanted to collaborate with for quite some time, in Scott Storch. I think he'd done some stuff back in the sort of D12 days with them, but it's the first one that, to my knowledge, just thinking at the moment, that he's produced. I actually really like this song, and it probably could have been between that and Shake That, and then they've obviously went for the latter to be released. But I do like this song, guys. What do you think?
Yes, I really enjoyed it. It was obviously, it's very unfinished in the leak, so I don't know how, if I would necessarily go back to it just based on how unfinished it sort of is. But yeah, it was good. The only issue I have as well is, like you said, if it was between this and Shake That, this does sound a lot like the majority of sort of that music in that era, the sort of the violins and stuff in the background. So I feel like it might have probably got lost a little bit, maybe underappreciated. So, but it was still cool to see that there was a freaking Nate Dogg feature in the locker, which is crazy. Just makes you think, what else he's hiding.
True. Key to My Room is another track. That is produced, but it doesn't actually say what it was produced, but I think it would have been
it's assumed it's Dre,
yeah,
because obviously he worked on Relapse, didn't he?
Yeah, during the Hawaii sessions back in 2008. What is your view on this track?
Yeah, well, where do you want to? I mean, yeah, this one's wild. The stuff about Amy Winehouse is so out of pocket. Like he's got like the first like 5 lines just about her teeth and her nosebleeds for a start. And then again, some of the yes, and some of the rhyme schemes in this are absolutely crazy. But yeah, this song is just so outlandish, and you can definitely see why it didn't get leaked. It's one I would go back to if obviously we could, and he did release it officially. This is one I would advise him if he was listening. You might not think many people want much from Relapse, but like anything you've got like this, people will fucking lap it up 100%.
And then another track is called titled Trade Off. Now, Trade Off was... Let's try to have a wee quick glance here. Is it Trade Off?
Yeah, that was the one with Slaughterhouse with like it's like Royce's first verse and Joel Ortiz.
That's the one. So this was apparently for Glasshouse, which was recorded in 2015 and produced by Just Blaze. Of course, the Glasshouse album by Slaughterhouse was never released, so we are under the assumption that it was recorded for those sessions. Track after that, you have Take It, which is it's a strange one. It's a more of a sort of freestyle, but we're led to believe that the original the intro was actually done in 2008, the verse was done in 2001, and the hook was done in 2003. But when I first heard the track, it did remind me of Devil's Night, so it could have been that. Obviously, I'm reading it here saying that the verse was from 01, so that does make sense that they were recording it on that. But I actually quite like that. Obviously, it's very short and sweet, but another decent one that came out in these leaks. Number sort of 10, if we're going through the numbers of this, is called Jump Off.
Jump Out.
Jump Out,
the one. Yeah.
Which is produced by Mr. Porter, August 2006. So would you think, guys, that's probably the re-up era, roughly around about then?
It depends if we're going to start conspiracy theory here or if we're going to be a little bit logical.
Okay.
I love a conspiracy.
Yeah, I'm here for the conspiracy theory.
It's not a conspiracy. There's a very large group of us, so do not mock me. Logically, re-up makes a lot of sense. Conspiracy-wise, and going off previous leaks, which we're not going to discuss about, but I am currently going to discuss about in a minute. Again, don't judge me. The rumoured retirement album that came after Proof's death.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is it King Mathers? I think it was King Mathers, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that does make sense based on the time period. I wanted to see if you guys thought so as well. The first verse, that's definitely a reference verse for Dre, isn't it? Because he obviously starts it with "Guess who's back, Mr. Andre Young. You wanted Andre, well we're here. Well, here Andre comes." That's got to be like that Crack the Bottle reference that dropped, where you can hear Eminem laying Dre's vocals. He's kind of got like Dre's accent going on as well.
Yeah, so it was either for a project that was going to be on King Mathers, or it was going to be for that Detox album that, of course, never came out. But I know that they were both recording the albums around about that time, so it probably does make sense.
In fairness, for the life of me, you've literally just reminded me, but I can't remember what song it is. There's a song on these set of leaks. It might have even been that Jump Out, or it might have been one that we've just previously spoken about, but he mentions a couple of things from that time period, and I think I wish I remembered what song it was, because now I feel like a dick not remembering, but I think that it actually might have even been this one. I can't remember, but when you actually listen to it, it sounds like it should have been on like Detox.
That's what I was going to say. Could it be a Detox track? Because it's two Dre verses and one Eminem verse, which tracks for a feature.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Because to me, it also sounds the same sort of time period as Die Hard. If you guys have ever heard, that's the
yes,
one that
yeah.
shouldn't have come out and wasn't
Yeah.
finished, but did. It sounds awful like it was made in a similar time period.
So the other ones that came were the track that was recorded for the Marshall Mathers LP2. That was called Ritz, produced by Eminem and Louis Resto. I actually quite like this one. It's quite a catchy chorus. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah. Not that I don't hate it. I don't. But and I get that it does feel like the Marshall Mathers LP2, but I don't like the way the chorus starts. That so here we go thing.
Yeah.
It just kind of penetrates my ears a little bit too much for me. But that's just my personal opinion.
So the other tracks, we've got one called Freak, which was featuring Westside Boogie and Anderson .Paak. Of course, there was a film called Bodied that the song did appear on, but it was never officially released, which is a bit of a strange one. Like, obviously, I don't understand the reason why it was never officially released.
This is a bop. Like I don't want to hear it from anybody else. I know Anderson .Paak spoke about it in an interview, saying that I think Sway was talking to him saying that he did the track with Eminem for the Body soundtrack, and Anderson .Paak said, "Yeah, that track was hard. It was kind of like a dance track. I don't know what they're going to do with it. Hopefully, he uses it. It's a funky tune." He said, "Oh, what's his name's on there? Boogie," which is because I'm guessing this must be around. Boogie must have been sort of new to Shady around the time this was potentially made. So
Was it 2017 this was made?
yeah, this was like 2017. So, well, it's officially stamped November 2nd, 2018. That might be when Bodied came out though, which is why that's stamped for that. But I really enjoyed this song. It's a different sort of sound for Eminem, which I think he should probably explore a little bit more. I know a lot of the people that listen to sort of hip hop around where I live anyway would appreciate a song like this a lot, especially with the sort of funky sound to it.
June 2017 was the alleged date of the recording of that track, and produced by Mr. Porter. So yeah, it makes sense if that film came out the year after.
I've always wondered if the reason it never came out is because even though the film itself is actually not as bad as everyone proclaimed it out to be at the time, I wonder if because the film wasn't really that successful. So when you think about like the films that Eminem have either been a part of producing or been directly involved in, i.e., obviously I know 8 Man. Then you've got films like Southpaw, and Southpaw I think was incredible.
I did really well. I really
the
enjoyed
film
that
itself
song.
was actually quite a good success. Like, it wasn't a blockbuster, but it in terms of how it did, especially not just in the theaters, but in terms of the music sales and the DVDs, it actually performed quite well. So, is it because this film didn't perform as well as they thought it was going to? Do you reckon that's why it never got a soundtrack release?
Well, yeah, I also think as well is that part of it, I think it was never really stapled for official release anyway. And it's very rare that I think Eminem would ever do this. But I don't know about you, but I've noticed there was just like one bit that's been recycled in another lyric of his, and I can't for the life of me remember what song. Oh no, it's on These Demons from Music to Be Murdered by Side B, where he says you just bit into the lit end of the wick and you're getting the shit end of the stick. He used that exact line in These Demons on Music to Be Murdered by. So my guess is he had the attitude that this song was never going to release. I didn't know one would ever hear it because of the fact that he maybe recycled some of the lyrics. But yeah, just a shame it didn't come out because I really like this song a lot.
That's a thing that I want to discuss. I'll maybe touch on it properly towards the end of the show. But you're thinking now that these tracks are out there, do you think that potentially they might do something and just release it officially? Obviously, some of the tracks that, there's certain lines or whatever that you don't want, but there was maybe other tracks that were still decent. Is there a chance that you can maybe touch them up and then just put them on streaming?
That I think is probably the most, in my opinion, the smartest move he could make. Because if he doesn't want the leakers getting credit for it, what he should do is run at the leakers with lawsuits so they get freaking scared, and then in the summer maybe this year he should just do like a vault drop, kind of like what Drake did, where he did that. It was 300 gig or something that Drake called it, where he just uploaded basically a load of documents and stuff like that from it was either leaked concept art or it was either some like leaked songs and stuff as well. I think Eminem would benefit from doing something like that.
Yeah, but
Especially because people then couldn't moan saying, "Oh, we want to hear him sound like his vintage shit." Well, this is his vintage shit, so don't
see,
whinge.
I've got two big issues with that. Well, two big issues in a theory. One big issue is I can't see him doing it because he didn't do it with the last two big leaks that he's had. When you think of the leaks that came from Encore, and then you think of the leaks that came from, like 2010, 2011-ish, the majority of those leaked songs, which are very held in very, very high regards by a lot of people, haven't officially been released still. The second big issue I've got is when you think about what he said on these songs, and bearing in mind not been fully leaked. Is it another case of what he said again is too much for, especially in this day and age? Do you know what I mean? Like if we were talking early 2000s, people need to get a grip. But when you think of the majority of people in this day and age, can they handle all these old tracks coming out? I don't think so.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but my stance on it is as well is I think there's very few people on this planet, right? And the examples I'll give you, I think you'll understand, that can get away with the stuff they get away with. So no one sits there and slants Sacha Baron Cohen, even though he did like Borat. He even redid Borat recently, and okay, it wasn't as funny and as bad as the other one, but he still got away with doing the character again. I think Eminem is probably one of those people where nothing's going to shock anybody that much anymore. I know, like, speaking from experience, when The Death of Slim Shady came out, I showed my mum some of the stuff, because she's a massive Eminem fan. I showed my mum some of the stuff that he said, and she just thought, it's pretty standard, really. I mean, he said worse, which he has. I mean, the whole of Relapse is enough to make you question his sanity anyway. So I really don't think there's any reason why he would get in any trouble for saying some of the stuff he said, especially when all he can do is go, well, I'm sorry, it was like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, this is my theory towards it. If he was to do that, I don't see him doing it now. I see it doing it when the day he calls it a day, and he'll just go, do you know what? I've got nothing to lose anymore. I'm done. So here's everything.
That'd be great.
Like,
so
that would be the time to do it, because at that point, what's he got to lose? He's got fuck all to lose.
Yeah, he's made all his money, I suppose.
So there was quite a lot of demos and alternate versions that came out in this leak as well. Don't want to go through all of them, but a few of them are some back and forth first, some discombobulated. There was the original Christopher Reeves track that, of course, then became Brand New Dance. And then there was a couple of Careful What You Wish For, My Darlings, Stepping Stone, Little Engine. So there was a couple of alternate versions and demos of them. One that was maybe a bit of a surprise to a lot of people was that we found out that Antichrist was originally done in 2005, and the first verse of that ended up becoming Renaissance on the opener of Renaissance of his new album. So Blake, what is your view on hearing that news, and then of course listening to the track?
I fucking love it.
It's good, and it is amazing.
Do you know what? Like, so when I saw Antichrist OG, I knew full well there was going to be some lines, like, i.e., basically first opening of the track, like, and obviously the beat, the chorus, obviously with obviously. So what I really like, and the way Eminem's done Antichrist in terms of On the Death of Slim Shady, I think is very well, in terms of he hasn't had to record the lines and make it sound like the old him. He's been able to the old him, and then obviously he's been able to then mix it and change the song completely, and like this the same way he did Jimmy Bryan and Mike, and the same way he's done Is This Love, which I know that's also been leaked, but with this one, I mean, it's just classic of that time period. You know, like he had an issue with Michael Jackson, scared of no fucker, and this song's my favourite. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what anyone says about what he says in the song. This song's my favourite.
See, I wanted to just like touch on something you just said there as well, Blake, because I think like this coming out, right, this Antichrist leaking, I don't know how he did. You know, how he changed his voice on The Death of Slim Shady, whether he recorded the vocals and then used an AI to make his voice sound younger. I think it just makes the Antichrist we got on the album sound almost like even more impressive as well.
100%.
Like how he managed to record the whole like, but who else has rapped? You know, the bit where he sort of goes into the proper old Slim Shady voice. How is he? It just shows how is he able to do that? Actually, that wasn't old lyrics. That's entirely new, and it sounded exactly the same as the majority of this song. So it's so
See,
clever.
the thing is though, like even when you listen to a new, well, what people say new Eminem now, like the way he, other than relapse, like like how he says words. Because like there's been times on Music to Be Murdered by where he'll say a word or he'll say a phrase and it sounds like early 2000s Eminem. So it's like with a little bit of mixing and you could argue a little bit of not voice change but like the AI aspect of it. It is very impressive. Like almost like how they did the interview with them both. Don't get me wrong, it sounded very robotic, but it must have been the exact same process they used to do that interview that they did in the recording process. In terms of basically, he just talks how he would have talked.
That's what I was thinking. It's like a voice module.
Yeah, but like I say, I mean, in this track, I like how he refers to Michael Jackson as being Michael Myers, and that Eminem, like, well, basically Slim Shady's than Michael Myers, but at the same time that's his inspiration. But don't get me wrong, the song is fucking out there, but I love it. I especially love the way he goes, Marshall.
Yeah, I think as well what I liked from the Antichrist 2005 version as well is obviously where he goes into sort of the end. It kind of makes sense as to why Bizarre was on the outro of the
100%.
one that came on the Death of Slim Shady, being that Bizarre and obviously I'm guessing Shady was talking to him, because it sounds like the voice that's obviously from Careful What You Wish For as well. So yeah, I just thought it was really cool that now that makes sense to me, because I think I remember when we first discussed the Death of Slim Shady, I was like, I'm not a fan of Bizarre's bit at the end, don't really understand it, doesn't make sense, doesn't go into the next song.
No, it makes
now
sense.
I've got an answer for it, so I'm happy.
Yeah, but it's
exactly that.
Doesn't Bizarre also like, because this what made me laugh, and without pulling it up, which obviously I can't do on here because of copyright and legal reasons, but doesn't Bizarre also go, man, I never said for you to say that shit or something like that. Basically, like Bizarre said, mate, you've gone too.
Yeah, he
says I might fuck a pit bull in the arse and sleep with my mother, but I wouldn't say that shit. Is what he says.
Do you know what? That's what I love about those two. Like, 'cause they've always had that funny relationship, haven't they?
Back and forth.
Yeah, so it's like obviously the theme of the song, and then for Bizarre to go, mate, that's
when you know.
Do you know what I mean? Like
that's when you know.
Comedy. It's comedy gold.
Michael, he's the Antichrist. Right, so we can't leave, lads. We cannot end the show without talking about probably the greatest leak of an Eminem song of all time. Probably, if it was officially released, it could have been top 5 of his best diss tracks, and that is called Smack You. It is a diss towards Ja Rule and Suge Knight. This, if I'm right in saying, dropped maybe 3 or 4 days after the sort of the mega amount of tracks got leaked. This was a few days later, and yeah, sorry Em, but I mean, yeah, I've listened to it for about 3 or 4 days solid. It is unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's so good, guys. This has to be up there. Obviously, you could understand the repercussions of it not coming out at the time. It would have probably just ignited a whole lot of shit. But what do you make of this track?
I mean, I'll go first because I know Blake's very excited to speak about this one as well, and I don't blame him, because I think when this all dropped, we all 3 of us in the group chat were like, "This is ridiculous." I agree with you. I understand why he might not have released it. He probably could have got himself in a lot of trouble and put himself on the radar quite a bit. But this is probably like everything that Eminem does well in one song. He's got really good beat choice there. The flows are nuts. His lyrics are on point, and he's ripping somebody to absolute shreds. So it's everything you can ask for. I do think that if this had released, it would have opened a very, very big can of worms that maybe would have changed the albums that came later on.
We love the beef. We love the beef.
Well, yeah, we do. We
Fucking
absolutely
love
love
it.
it. And obviously, this was probably recorded at the height of Eminem. Just he had everybody coming at him from all angles at one point. So I'd imagine this was just another one of the disses that he made. But again, this was enough to go. Because I don't know about you guys, but I thought I was slightly disappointed when you hear Haley's Revenge that he only really does the hook for it, and he's kind of got like everybody else rapping for him. This is just I feel like he's in
song though, because it's like
that's
he
why it
doesn't
does
need
well.
any
Yeah.
like he could literally just clown it and not still do him over.
But I feel like this song was made when he was in a mood. He had a dark hoodie on, like dark clothing, went in the booth on his own, and just went for it. That's the kind of vibe I get from this. The 8 Mile.
No.
Vibe.
The vibe. I'll tell you the exact vibe I get from this. Like Toy Soldier's music video, the bit where he's reading the lyrics and does that sign to whoever's producing, saying nah, cut it. That's the vibe I get.
Yeah,
It's so violent.
I feel that he's recorded that, and then he's went straight into the booth and recorded Soldier from the Eminem show. It's just the flow, the anger. It's very similar, and it was probably, I would imagine, recorded in between the Eminem show and Encore. So he's still got that voice. If it's hard to describe it, but just that fuck you, I'm him sort of voice.
And obviously, with it having the intro, which sounds like it's saying "Suge shot me, Suge shot me, Suge shot me" over and over again.
I think that was on Machiavelli, if I'm right in saying. The opening,
it's from Bomb First, which is his second reply.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just it's brilliant. I'm not gonna lie, I've had it on repeat for days, and will continue to for the next couple of weeks as well. But yeah, as I was saying, it's put M in a bit of a position because a lot of stuff came out there. What we're talking about at the start was the apparent, obviously not confirmed, but if it was apparently leaked by people that worked inside Interscope, I think he's got quite a big sort of choice. Does he continue with Interscope because this has happened countless times? Does he, end his contract with him? Does he go elsewhere? Does he go independent? I don't know how he's going to feel or how he's felt since these leaks have happened. But it's going to be an interesting one because there's obviously a big lawsuit on its way as well for these people.
It's a very sticky one because in terms of Interscope as a whole, obviously the wide board that they have as artists, it's not only Eminem, it's them too.
Yeah, there were other people that had leaks as well, weren't there? Like I know that Taylor Swift had some, so they've gone for the big players, which is a shame.
It's one of those, he has enough backing of his own record label and he has enough pull just off his name to be able to go solo in terms of publicizing just from Shady, and I think it would still do just as good. Because realistically, how many times have you scrolled to the bottom of iTunes or you scrolled to the bottom of Spotify and gone, oh fucking hell, Interscope's helped release this? Like, it's not 2003, it's not 2004 where it's plastered in a big bold thing on the back of a CD.
Yeah.
All in all, he does have that choice. Does he stay or does he go? But at the end of the day, what's to say that he's not going to have the leaks again through someone else?
So going on from that is one thing I wanted to run past you guys now that sort of we've sat down and had a chance to really discuss it. I personally have kind of come to the conclusion, it might not be true, I could be completely off the ball here. I think this has been an internal battle to avoid letting the leaks go for probably the past year. And that's why I think we got Brand New Dance, Antichrist on the album.
What, so do you think he's had wind of it and then just basically redone the song they're sort of out there?
That's why it makes sense to me, because if he then, because Brand New Dance, the original leaking, everyone kind of goes, oh, we don't need to hear it because it's not very different to the new, to the current one. He's changed like a couple of words here and there, but the Antichrist thing leaking, showing that the first verse of Antichrist then became the intro to Renaissance as well, the intro for Renaissance, and then going on from there as well, the whole of Antichrist leaks, which is basically the same format as the Antichrist we got on the Death of Slim Shady album. It just seems to me that, like, I think they probably caught wind that these were eventually going to get out, and it was like, shit, okay, how can we use them? How can we get ahead of that curve? And that was how, because Antichrist, the beat is pretty much identical. I don't think it's changed at all, like much. Maybe apart from at the end with the beat switch, and the beat switch just before Bizarre's bit, you know what I mean? But yeah, with Renaissance being the intro, I just think they got ahead. They knew it was coming. They thought we need to get ahead of it. Let's use some of the old content because we all said that the album concept with the whole AI being used was so strange for Eminem. Well, it was so out of the blue. Like you'd think he is probably against all that shit. Likes artists that come up with all their own original content, etc., and don't use AI. And then all of a sudden we get an album that has all these original tracks that we never got to hear. That everyone's going, oh yeah, wicked. This must have been back in the day. And then a couple months later, those particular tracks just happen to leak. It just seems a bit weird.
See,
to me.
but this is why I think, in terms of what we just spoke about, in that song "Smack You," songs like that. This is where I feel like he should have just probably died on his shield with it, because that whole disc is fantastic. See, I mean, we spoke about this again before we pressed record while we were, just spitballing, and it's like it was definitely Dre or Jimmy or someone's idea for that not to go out, because obviously he says in the song about Biggie getting killed and Tupac getting killed. Maybe it'll be next to sit in the front of a Benz and this, that, and the other. So, like, that definitely came from a place of anger. But when you hear all the stories about Eminem standing up to Suge Knight and being ready to fight, so he was definitely in that place of anger where he wasn't, being killed or this, that. And he even says, like, kill me, but I'll expose it. So it's like, songs like that, when you think about all the other diss songs that came out in that time period, that's not like it's not a terrible leak. So if that was to come out, obviously I know it's a bit outdated. Shug's in prison, but it's one of those. If that was to leak, or well, not it has leaked. If it was to be released officially, it won't be the end of the world. But like you just said, the fact that all these, what we were under the impression was him using mix, is these original songs. It has to be someone internal, because
that's what I'm thinking, and that sucks as well. Like probably more than anything, because like don't get me wrong, I work in an office, right? And previous office I worked in was like 40 people. If the people I sat closest with and spoke to on a daily basis, if they were making comments behind my back, I'd be a bit like pissed off, right? But if it was someone on the other side of the office that I never really speak to, I wouldn't really care. But the idea that it could be someone that is close enough to sit next to Eminem when he's potentially got a hard drive out and then get a copy of it means that it's probably come from someone he's worked with for quite a while, or maybe it's a new engineer that just thought, here's my opportunity to try and get some fucking clout, let me do it now. But what I'm finding weird is that no one's claimed it. No one's claimed the leaks, really, other than the leakers that Danny's mentioned. But no one's come out and been like, oh yeah, it was confirmed it was someone from Interscope. It's all very hush hush, which is why it makes me think this was controlled and they knew this was going to potentially happen. Taylor Swift dropped at the same time as Eminem last year, and she had leaks. So who knows?
So on that note, we will end the show. As I says, it's just one of those ones to be a massive Eminem fan. It's good and bad. You're listening to stuff that you've never heard before, but also it's stuff that never made the cut and probably shouldn't have been released. But that is where we are these days.
You know what?
And
sorry to butt in, but do you know what I will say? Fair play for how quick their team has actually jumped on it all. Because, granted, if you haven't heard them already, chances are you're going to struggle to hear them unless you go on. There's a couple of reaction videos. I'm not endorsing them, because at the end of the day, it is music been released against the artist's permission. But it's one of those, if you haven't listened to it, chances are you're going to struggle to listen to it. But at the end of the day, don't judge, and this is for anyone who hasn't, does by happen to chance find it. Don't judge that person by what they've said in the past, because like the spokesperson said, and I use this example all the time, before Tupac died, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they would have said similar things, but before Tupac died, he recorded and made 720 odd songs. There's a reason. Don't get me wrong. A couple of them have been put out, and a couple of them could have been put out before he died. But there's a reason not all of them have come out. And at the end of the day, like that spokesperson said, it's experimental. It's this, that, and the other. So don't judge Eminem by what he said in the past. Just
Facts.
Just accept it, move forward in it, and look forward to what comes next.
So the statement read, these leaked songs were studio efforts never meant for public consumption. They are demos, experiments and ideas that are dated and not relevant so many years later. Just before we go, guys, the Grammys is, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks away from now. Eminem is nominated in Best Rap Performance for Houdini. He is up against Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar, which is going to be difficult. He's also nominated for Best Rap Album. He is up there with the likes of J. Cole for Might Delete Later and Future and Metro Boomin's We Don't Trust You. In reality, guys, do you think he has a chance of winning any of those?
Kendrick might take what he can. I think Kendrick's going to fucking mind sweep this whole Grammys where he's been nominated. But the best rap album, I think he probably has a good chance. It got, public, like everyone loved it, even people that hadn't listened to his music for years or people that had, have been following it for years as well. The public reception that I saw for the Death of Slim Shady was very positive. So, yeah, fingers crossed he takes the win for that one.
Why all of a sudden? I understand the album was massive. It was absolutely everywhere. But why all of a sudden are they actually? Because he should have been nominated multiple times in years gone by now into the Grammys.
And he wasn't.
And he hasn't been, but all of a sudden this album he's been nominated. He's been nominated in multiple different categories. I don't know, something. I just feel like
I agree.
Nominated him,
it does seem a bit sus.
I think it's going to be what he said in Sway interview. They nominate you. They get people to hear the name Eminem. People are going to tune in, and it doesn't win.
We shall see. Right, guys, thank you very much for joining me, and thanks to everyone that has listened to the show so far. Of course, as ever, we are on all your main streaming platforms, and just hit that subscribe button and you will be notified the next time we drop an episode. So we will be back in a couple of weeks. We have an episode dedicated to tracks featuring Eminem, so the likes of all the hits that he'd done with 50 Cent back in the day on the Get Rich or Die Trying. There's just so many to talk about, but we're going to do an episode dedicated to those. So we'll see you then, and thank you very much for joining us.